Great to
Morning,
have you with
Richard.
us this Sunday morning. So, whilst I've been away, there's been just an ever-growing sort of amount of things going on, sort of disrelations, I would say, rather than improving relations between our Prime Minister and the President of France regarding how to deal with the crisis across the Channel. What's your take on the current state of French-UK relations in the run-up to the French presidential election?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say this is all posturing for the presidential election, that Macron is doing all of this to garner votes from the centre-right and right of, French politics. But actually, if you look back at Macron's track record, he's been anti-British from the minute we voted to leave the European Union. It was France that was posturing, refusing to give Theresa May, not that I want to mention her too much, but refusing to give Theresa May extra time for negotiations. It was France that wanted to push the United Kingdom out without a deal. It was France that wanted to punish the UK through the deal that we eventually got. And now it's France being belligerent over fishing rights. There have been 1,700 licenses issued to fish in our waters. 40% of them have gone to the French. So they really haven't got grounds to complain on, but complain they do. And then they don't man their borders. We've paid them £200 million over the last couple of years to do what they actually should do for free, which is man their own borders, prevent this illegal emigration from France across the Channel. And they don't do it. So, sorry. Go.
Well, essentially, if this continues up to the presidential elections, we've got months and months of this.
We have, and it's not going away and the reason it's not going to go away is because the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, hasn't got the courage to act unilaterally. The thing about Brexit was to take back control. But if you look at our Prime Minister, he's paralyzed whenever he has an opportunity to actually exercise unilateral British sovereign action. He gets paralyzed. He should be robust on illegal immigration across the Channel. He should be robust on French fishing boats coming into Jersey and causing trouble. Robust when they threaten to cut off our electricity supply. But you don't. You see a wavering Prime Minister. And when it comes to the Northern Ireland Protocol, something that actually fundamentally undermines his Brexit promise, which, just to remind listeners, was that the country would leave the European Union as one united kingdom.
That's
and
right.
We haven't even done that.
And you've done so much work on the Northern Ireland Protocol. What's the latest state of negotiations? Because, we had this sort of seemingly this press release from the EU, must be 5-6 weeks ago now, from Maros Sefcovic, and people thought, perhaps naively, that they were going to, try and sort of make progress. I said then that Lord Frost had to set a deadline in mid to late November, after which that we would serve Article 16, invoke Article 16 to end the protocol. They haven't done that. What's your understanding of the state of negotiations and where it's likely to head from here?
Well, here's another really good example, Richard, and you and I have seen it before, of the Prime Minister refusing to take proper action to protect the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland is suffering. Trade is shifting away from Great Britain towards Ireland. That is a core reason, and a legitimate core reason to invoke Article 16. At the G7 meeting in June, the Prime Minister said he wouldn't hesitate to invoke Article 16. Here we are in December, and all he has done is hesitate. Yeah. And I get a sense of real deja vu. You and I have seen this last year, all through last year. The Prime Minister was saying, if by 30th June we haven't got a deal with the EU, we're going to leave on WTO terms. 30th June came around, nothing happened. 15th of September was his next deadline. That came around, nothing happened. And we're seeing it with Article 16. Lord Frost is too timid. I'm going to call him Lord Timid from now on, because even though his rhetoric last year was quite strong, all he's done for the last couple of months is print basically the same report on his negotiations with the EU, which I can summarize for you. It always says there's a massive gap between our negotiating positions. Well, if there's a massive gap, invoke Article 16.
Many would say that he's the best we've got. He's the best negotiator through this whole sort of 5-year process. if you don't think he's up to it, then I'm a bit concerned that there's not much hope. But in a sense, sometimes you've actually got to have the courage to stand up and say, enough's enough, we're done. And it feels to me, we know Theresa May never did that throughout the whole negotiating process, and we know where that ended, in tears, and she lost her job as a result of it. And in a sense, the EU, I wonder if they actually don't think that Boris and Lord Frost are prepared to invoke Article 16, and therefore, in a sense, the negotiations may be going backwards.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Richard. They don't take us seriously. They've seen us posture before and then failed to fulfill the ultimatums we set. We set ultimatum after ultimatum with Theresa May. We did it again with Boris Johnson. We missed all our own deadlines, and we're doing it again.
Here's a question, Ben, that I'm not sure you may have heard earlier. Someone tweeted in Northern Ireland, if the EU brings in mandatory vaccines, would that or would that not have to apply in Northern Ireland? Very technical question, very interesting question. You may or may not know,
question.
That in a sense highlights this point, Ben, doesn't it? About the question of where's the control, who's pulling the levers?
Yeah, absolutely. Where's our sovereignty? If we then have to follow the EU into mandatory vaccination because Northern Ireland's caught by some of the 800 provisions to which it is signed up with the EU, that's clearly not sovereign.
Extraordinary. Ben, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. I suspect we're going to be talking again because this is just going to run and run. And I've got very little confidence that the government will invoke Article 16, which I think is necessary, because otherwise this just goes on and on. That was Ben Habib, Chief Executive of First Property Group.